Hills. Before we get started, we have a few quick guidelines to follow during tonight's service. Number 1, please put away all electronic devices. The idea is to focus on worshiping God. Number 2, respect others around you and respect God. Don't be a distraction to the students around you. And number 3, enjoy. Have fun. Welcome to the Hills.
Y'all stand up, come on. I am free, freedom never felt so good. I will sing, sing and never felt so good. All right, y'all know it, sing it out loud, come on. In the chaos, in the crowded streets, God, you see me, and you know my name. In your spirit, in your love I am found secure. When I'm lost, living on my own, God remind me you are on the throne. In your presence, in your power I am found secure. You are for me when everything's against me, all around me. When I'm facing down my enemies, I can't sing louder than you sing for me. Yeah, yeah. I am free, freedom never felt so good. I will sing, sing, it never felt so good. Come on, y'all lift it up. In the darkness, in the dead of night, when I find you, you are on my side. You are faithful, in your arms I am found secure. You're for me, you are for me, when everything's against me, all around me. When I'm facing down my enemies, I can't sing louder than you sing for me. Yeah, yeah. I am free, freedom never felt so good. I will sing, sing, it never felt so good. You are in me, you're never gonna leave me. In every single season, you're never gonna stop telling me you love me. Jesus, you're my freedom, and I can't shake this feeling. It's never gonna stop. Keep it going. Sing it out, you know it. 'Cause I was lost with a broken heart. You picked me up, now I'm set apart. From the ash I am born again, forever safe in the Savior's hands. You were more than my words could say. I'll follow you, Lord, for all my days. I'll fix my eyes following your ways. Forever free, you unending grace. Y'all sing it, come on. Oh, you are my freedom. We lift you higher, we lift you higher. Your love, your love, your You are all we need. Your love has set us free. Oh. In the midst of the darkest night, let your love be the shining light. It's breaking chains that were holding me. You sent your son down and set me free. Everything of this world will fade. I'm pressing on till I see your face, and I will live that your will be done. 'Cause I won't stop till your kingdom comes. Come on, sing. Oh, you are my freedom. We lift you higher. We lift you higher. Your love never ending. Oh, oh, oh. You are alive in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. Whoa, yeah. Come on. You are my freedom. We lift you higher. We lift you higher. Your love never ending. Oh, oh, oh. Come on, y'all, sing it out. You are my freedom. We lift you higher. We lift you higher. Your love never ending. Oh, oh, oh. You are alive in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. Oh, you are alive in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. Whoa. Woo! Find 3 people you haven't talked to and tell them your favorite candy. Your favorite candy at Halloween. Go, go, go.
All right. How's everybody doing tonight? We good? Good. We have a few announcements. If y'all didn't know, David and Hannah had their child, Leo. So he's doing good there at home. Loving life. Deeper, Sunday nights at 6 in the attic. And then we'll go to our classroom after that, and we'll go through a study with David. Right now, it's Mr. Tom Dickerson. He's leading a study on like defending your faith and owning your faith based upon biblical facts and just stuff that we can use in the world to spread the gospel. It's really awesome. I don't know why that came on. Next is Share the Love. We'll take up an offering in the next song, and yeah, we'll get that done. Last but not least, Abby, KB, and Emma are going to start their, is it middle school girl Bible study at 5:30 on Tuesdays Central. So if you're a middle school girl and you want to get plugged into a Bible study, hit them up after this. They can give you, invite your friends. Say what? Yeah, tell people at school, all that kind of stuff, just to get plugged into a Bible study. It's an awesome Bible study. I think that's it.
Yeah, we got the stupid video lever for tonight. All right, so if you're not familiar with the stupid video lever, we pull a lever and then it plays a bunch of stupid videos off the internet. Is everybody ready? Man, y'all are just into it tonight, aren't you? Here we go. Don't try that at home, ladies and gentlemen. All right, y'all stand up. Let's continue to worship. All right, we learned this one a few weeks ago. Sing it out. Here we go. When night has fallen, when fear is coming, still you're calling me. When faith is lost and my hope exhausted, you will be my strength. 'Cause when my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. I've decided I'm not giving up. 'Cause you won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. Feel it breaking out like an echo. Holding on and it won't let go. Feel it breaking out like an echo, echo in my soul. In every season, you keep repeating the promises to me. And there's no stopping what you have started until it is complete. And when my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. I've decided I'm not giving up, and you won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. Like an echo, your love is holding on and it won't let go. Feel it breaking out like an echo, echo in my soul. Echo in my soul. My mind, sing it out. My mind says I'm not good enough. God, you're enough for me. And I've decided I'm not giving up. You won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. You love know it, sing it. By his stripes we are healed, and by his nail-pierced hands we're free. By his blood we're washed clean, and now we have the victory. Power of sin's broken. Y'all sing it out. The power of sin is broken. Jesus overcame it all. He is won our freedom. Jesus has won it all. You have won the victory. Y'all may be seated.
Most of y'all are familiar with the Goldilocks, the story of Goldilocks and the three bears, and the whole issue of Goldilocks. The moral of that story is she had a hard time getting it just right. I want to tell you tonight our fourth installment of Chip Ingram's 5 issues that he says is divisive. It is the least controversial of the 5, but the most complicated. You hear me? It's the least and let me tell you, it's the least uncomfortable issue. I mean, we talk about sex, and we talked about homosexuality. Last week we talked about abortion. But those are all very straightforward things. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. It's clear. Whether you agree with it or not, it's clear. But when you come to the environment, how we deal with the environment is more complicated. And I think for most believers, it's kind of hard to get it just right. And so tonight we're going to talk briefly about the environment and what we don't know is killing us, and how as Christians we ought to deal with the issue of environment. It is a hot topic in many areas. It is a hot topic in California, where Chip Ingram is from, even more so probably than it is here in the South. But it is an issue that we need to come to terms with, and even though it is complicated and sometimes it's difficult to get it just right, we need to work on it. He gives this passage out of the Gospel of Mark. They brought the coin, and he asked them, whose image is this? Whose inscription? He said, Caesar's, and they replied. Then Jesus said to them, give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's, and they were amazed. Mark 12, 16, and 17. Now here's I think for believers, for Christians, here is why sometimes we struggle. Here is why the issue of the environment is so complicated for us, and we have difficulty. The first is this. I think we struggle because we've heard the warning. The Bible clearly warns us to not worship the creation more than the Creator. And there are a lot of people on the wrong side of this issue who are literally worshiping the creation, who give no credit to the Creator. And so I think sometimes we struggle with getting it just right because we've heard the warning, and we don't want to be guilty of worshiping the creature more than the Creator, as Paul talks about in Romans 1:25. But I think there's a second reason. We've encountered the heavyweights, or we've not encountered the heavyweights. In other words, there are some people that they are super big on the environment, and maybe it's not a big issue to you because you haven't encountered them, but maybe you're struggling with it because you have encountered them, and they're feeding you all kinds of stuff, and I mean, they're heavyweights. They're all about protecting the environment at any cost, and they see the environment more important than even human beings. And so, so sometimes we find it difficult, and we struggle with getting it just right when it comes, because we've encountered these people. They are very passionate. They are very persistent in their struggle and in their attitude toward the environment, and they're very political. They know what buttons to push, and they know where to go, and they know how to press that agenda. And so we've encountered these people that in their mind, the environment over everything else. is what is most important. So sometimes we struggle because we're inundated with those kind of things, but they're perverted because I told you last week, I can almost guarantee you that a vast majority of the people that are very pro-creation, in other words, they're pro-earth, we got to take care of Mother Earth. The very same people that are so pro-earth are also so pro-abortion. All right, so they're pro, what they would say, they're pro-choice, and so they're very perverted kind of sometimes. They want to protect the earth, but they don't want to protect the unborn. So it's kind of a, so we struggle because we encounter these heavyweights. But I think there's another reason why we struggle, and maybe not your generation, maybe as much as my generation. We struggle because we're anticipating a change in the wind. By that I mean we understand that there's coming a day when there's going to be a new heaven and a new earth. For the old heaven and the old earth are passed away. And if we're not careful, we almost get the mentality, well, this world was never intended to last anyway, and the clock is ticking, and Jesus is one day going to make everything right, and so there's no need for me to worry about taking care of this world because it's not a permanent thing. And so I think we get that mentality. There is going to be a day. The wind is going to change. There is going to be a new heaven and a new earth. But until then, we need to be taking care of the earth we have. So we felt the wind blowing on our faces from the scripture about a new heaven and a new earth. But let me tell you what. We as God's people, we may struggle with it, but here's what we need to come to eventually. We need to care for this world. We need to be ready for the other world. We need to be ready to die. We certainly need to be ready for the Lord's return. We need to be a part of that new heaven and that earth. But until then, we need to take care of this earth. This is my Father's world. And we have a responsibility, biblically, spiritually, as children of God, to take care of the world. And I think sometimes the ultra ecologist kind of people, ultra environment people, don't see in us. We ought to be at the forefront, not because we're perverted, but because we have a purpose. We ought to be in the forefront of saying we do need to be good stewards of this world. Now here's the stance. He does an excellent job in giving us several precepts that we need to work from as believers. These are things we need to believe. Number one is this: we need to look at our world and know, and we need to address people who are concerned about the environment and say, as God's people, we understand this is the precept: the earth belongs to God. The earth belongs to God. Psalm 24, 1 through 2 says, the earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it, for it's founded on the seas and established it on the waters. I would almost go out on a limb and be safe in going out on that limb that most people who are ultra-environmentalists are also ultra-evolutionists. In other words, they believe that the world just, the Big Bang Theory or single-cell stuff happened and all of this has evolved to where it is today. And so we start from the premise, no, God created this, and this is His world. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it. It is a special place, and we need, by our very care of it and attitude toward it and what we say about it, understand it is a special place because it is created by God. It is a spectacular place. I mean, you don't have to go far to know that we live in a spectacular world. On a night when it's not raining and the clouds aren't there and the stars are out, just to behold the stars, every day, just the spectacular aspect of God's great creation. And so the earth belongs to God. It is a special place. It is a spectacular place. It is a scientific place. We don't need to try to it is the scientific place. And it is wonderfully and fearfully put together, and so we need to understand that. But most of all, it is a sacred place. It is special, spectacular, certainly scientific, but it is a sacred place. The world ticks because it is such a scientific place, because God ingrained in it the science to keep this world going. the biology and everything, the ecology and all of that to keep it going. So, the biblical implication is we are to honor God's creation. Because this is His earth, we're to honor God's creation. Genesis 1:1 talks about that in the beginning. The second precept is this: God appointed humankind with dominion over the earth. He appointed humankind with dominion over the earth. The as high as heavens belong to the Lord, but the earth He has given to mankind. Psalm 115:16. Now, the world was not placed in our hands for us to merely idolize it, but rather to utilize it. Listen to what I'm telling you. This is major. In other words, it does not have a do not touch sign attached to it. Part of the ultra-environmentalist kind of mentality would depend on everything in the world a do not touch sign. God never intended it to have a do not touch sign on it. However, we should, as often as we can, wipe our fingerprints off of it. So we don't put a do not sign on it. God gave it to us for us to use and subdue and to have dominion over it. But we do need to handle it with care and to wipe, as it were, our fingerprints off of it and to appreciate it. So Earth was never intended to be a museum that you just view from a distance. He wants us to experience this world. The biblical implication that is that we are Earth's vice regents. In other words, we've been given a responsibility to take care of our world, to be good stewards of it. The third precept is this: the earth has intrinsic value and reflects the character and beauty of the Creator. It does have a value to it, and it does, I think He intended for the beauty of this world, the makeup of this world, to convey something about who He is. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of His hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they reveal knowledge. Psalm 19, 1 through 2. The details of this world reveal His greatness. Many of you have had biology, you have had science classes. Just the details, the intricate details in God's creation reminds us of His greatness. The pollination that takes place, the seasons, the intricate parts of a flower or a tree or an animal. Just the details reveal the greatness of Almighty God. He really did think of everything. The diversity reveals His greatness. He could have made one kind of butterfly, but He made lots of different kinds of butterflies. He could have made one kind of flower, but He makes lots of different flowers. Just the diversity reveals the greatness of God. The durability reveals His greatness. His book talks about, in sometimes we abuse creation, and for a time he lived near Lake Erie, and at one time Lake Erie had been so polluted by mankind, not being good stewards, that it was almost, everybody thought, beyond repair. But he says once they stopped the pollution, within 5 or 10 years, it was rebounding from that. God has placed within the capacity of creation a great healing aspect of itself. And so once man stopped polluting Lake Erie began to come back really on its own, because God's greatness is revealed through the durability. I think the drama in our world reveals His greatness. The volcanoes, storms, rain, even hurricanes, tornadoes that are sure devastating things, but just the drama involved in our world reveals His greatness. And so the earth has value to it and reflects the character of God. The biblical implication is we must explore, not exploit. We must enjoy, but not elevate creation beyond what it should be. In other words, we don't worship it. But we do explore it, and we do enjoy it. We do appreciate it, because it does reflect the character of God. Precept number 4, humanity is placed in the middle of the created hierarchy and is uniquely responsible to the Creator and His creation. Humanity is placed in the middle of the created hierarchy and is uniquely responsible to the Creator and His creation. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place, what's mankind that you're mindful of them? You've made him a little lower than the angels and crowned him with glory and honor. Psalm 8, 3 through 5. How he regards us is greater, and how we ought to regard creation is greater, or should be, because we are a hierarchy. Human life is much more important than animal life. I'm not saying animal life is unimportant, but just less important than human life. And so the regard we have for human life ought to be greater than the regard we have for animal life. Many of you have pets. I'm not saying you don't care for your pets, you love your pets, and I'm not saying they're not almost human, I know. But they're not human. You're human. Your sister, your brother's human, your parents are human, your friends are humans. God places greater, it doesn't place value on created things, but he places greater value on you. There's a great illustration, great children's story in the Bible that reminds us God still cares about animals. When the flood came, was it just humans on the ark? How many animals? 2 by 2 of all kinds of animals. So God does care, but we need to understand that humanity, mankind is placed in the hierarchy. So we're more important. The role and the responsibility of humankind is greater. So we do have a responsibility to be sure we're good stewards of our world. And of course, the reward is greater. I'm telling you what, if you have a pet, and you care for that pet, you take care of that pet pet is blessed, I understand that, but you're blessed more in life than any animal could ever be. I don't care how great they're taken care of. That's the point he's trying to make. The biblical implication, we should use, not abuse creation. We should use it, but not abuse it. Precept number 5. God commands environmental stewardship to protect the land, animals, and vegetation for the common good. Some would say, where does the Bible say that? Well, there's several places. Deuteronomy 20:19 says, do not destroy the trees because you can eat from them. He also says, do not muzzle the ox while it's treading out the grain. Deuteronomy 25:4. In other words, God says you need to take care of creation. You don't need to abuse it. Consumerism and conservation go hand in hand. Now, if you only consume, soon you're not going to have anything to consume. But if you only conserve, you will never be able to consume that. And so his thought is, and I think it's a good biblical precept, that consumerism and conservation go hand in hand. And the Lord certainly understood that. And with Israel, he taught them every so often to let a field lay without crops in it one year so it could rebound, nutrients could be rebound. He talked about every 50 year was a year of Jubilee in which everything was kind of transferred back. And so God understood the need for us to be environmentally stewards of what we have. The biblical implication, consumption must be governed. And to be fair, probably to the ultra-environmentalists, they have seen when consumption was not governed, when it was not at all governed. And so Kathy and I are watching a Ken Burns documentary right now. It's a 6th episode on the creation of the national parks. And it's just a fascinating story, and how people had to come to say, we need to protect these lands, and we don't need to consume all of this. We need to save this for future generations to enjoy it. That's the ideal here, that consumption must be governed. The 6th precept is Christ's redemptive work includes the earth. In other words, we ought to care about this world because God cares about it so much that it's part of His redemptive plan that He's going to, and in fact the Bible talks about, for creation waits in eager expectation that the creation itself will be liberated from its bondage of decay and brought into the freedom and glory of the children of God, Romans 8:19 through 21. And so creation itself is going to be redeemed and refocused and all of that. And so we ought to care about this world because God cares enough about this world to make it part of His redemptive plan. We must treat the earth with the same priority God does. Now let me just close tonight with kind of the strategy. As a Christian, as a believer, what can we do to be good stewards of our world, to appreciate what we have? I think he gives us 4 things that we need to do. Number 1 is this: explore. Let me tell you what you need to do. You need to get outside some. You need to put your phone down. You need to leave the video games out. And you just need to get out in the great outdoors. You don't have to go, you can go to some places. You can go to Colorado or California. But let me tell you what, right here in DeSoto County, you can get out right in your backyard. You can get out and begin to appreciate it. And I think his mentality is, if we'll get out and look around and see all of this great creation, it will make us be more appreciative of it and want to take care of it. Educate yourself. Listen in biology. Appreciate the things that you're going to learn scientifically about our world. Now, your teachers, some of them will be believers, some of them won't, especially as you go in your higher education. If you go to college, you're going to probably have some professors in those fields who are probably evolutionists, and your job is not necessarily to straighten them out. You're just straight on that, and even as they talk about the billions of years that the Earth's been around, and even as they talk about how evolution brought all of these intricacies into being, you in your heart know, no. I'm going to learn all those details, but I know who put those details there. And as you're educated in that, it's going to make you appreciate this world even more. Engage. Find something you can do to take care of this earth that is ours. Let me give you a simple one. Don't throw your trash out your car window. Especially if you drive by 4833 Henry Drive, don't throw your beer cans. Y'all wouldn't throw beer cans. Don't throw your trash in my yard. People do that. Still do that. Just don't let a scrap of paper and if you're walking by and you see something, pick it up. It's just simple thing. Recycle. I don't know if your household recycles. In South Haven, if you recycle it, they charge you to do that. You'd think it'd be the other way around, but they charge you to recycle. It's not a great amount of money every month, but for years, Kathy and I have been recycling. You'd be amazed how much a recycle can you're going to fill up. It just helps. It just helps you not fill up the landfill. Maybe we've got so used to plastic bags. Maybe ask at the groceries, because more groceries are doing that. Ask for a paper bag, which is more recyclable. And most paper bags now are made out of even recycled paper, and so it's not cutting down new tree growth to do that. So I'm just saying, find a way to engage yourself in taking care of this world that we have, and there are all kinds of ways that you can do that. There's all kinds of ways that you can get your friends involved in that. You have to have adult help with this because you don't want to get hit, but maybe adopt a road and just maybe in your neighborhood or going into your neighborhood, and just have a day in which you're going to go around, take a plastic bag, and you're going to pick up trash. I'm just saying there are things you can do on a very local level, on a very neighborhood level, that will help. The last thing he says, empower. Here's what he means by that. Maybe find some people that are ultra environmentalists and empower them to appreciate who you are and what you stand for by saying to them, you know what, I too care about this world, and I want to hear about what you think, and I want to hear about what I can do to help you. Maybe you discover how you could become engaged by encountering some folks who what we would call are the heavyweights in the environment, and learning some things that you might do. I'm just telling you, students, this is our Father's world, and we do. And although although it goes too far some ways, I think in some ways the ultra environmentalists have helped us all understand that there is a need for us to take care. And but we ought to be on the forefront as believers of taking care of our Father's world. Lord, I thank you for these students tonight. I thank you for this world that you've given us. And Lord, may we appreciate it and not just be consumers constantly, but we also think about how we can be conservationists too, appreciating what you have. And Lord, I really believe this group could make a difference if they would just find some ways that they could become engaged in taking care of not Mother Earth. This is our Father's world. And Lord, help us maybe to come in contact with some people who do believe it's just Mother Earth, and they're ultra, that's their goal, is to just take care. But we could say, well, how can we help take care of this world and be better stewards of it? And in doing that, Lord, it'll help open some doors for some conversation, for us to remind those around us that we do appreciate and love this world that you've given us. We're going to thank you for all you do. For it's in your name we ask it. Amen. All right, you got some time for small groups. You can break up. Thanks. Have a good week.